Well, I guess I might as well begin my reviews of the Scream franchise. What's up, guys? Monster Master Godzilla here, and I'm here to begin my reviews of the Scream franchise. We're beginning with Scream 1, right here, simply titled Scream, from 1996. Now, Cole, I know if you're watching this, I've seen your first time watching those videos, and you're here for a treat. You're here for a treat of what my thoughts are and of all the franchise, beginning with part 1. Now, where do I begin with this one? Scream is, of course, one of my favorite movies of all time. This one is it's quite a very epic 90s film. It's very 90s. The main character, the killer, of course, calls people on the phones and stalks people and after they got their number. And this movie is like Jaws of the slasher series. And but here, and I'll tell you why later. So this one's made during the 90s, a time when the slasher movies genre was worn out. But Scream right here saved the slasher genre. And it's being that it's directed by Wes Craven, who you recognize the name as the director of movies like Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes, that's right. They made a lot of references to famous horror movies, and each of the franchise has some themes to it. This one's about all classic movies, like the original. And this one, in the beginning, it has an all-star cast. It almost feels like an all-star cast in terms of actors. In the beginning, we have Drew Barrymore, who is a big name. You would think because she's a big name and actress, she would be the main character of the whole movie. But nope. She ends up getting killed in this movie, along with her boyfriend. And it turns out for the famous, and for what we gathered is that, but the real main character was actually Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell. Now, my goodness, Sidney Prescott, she was a really badass bitch in this film. If you have never seen this movie, you'll definitely love. If you have never seen this movie, you'll definitely love Sidney Prescott. She's an awesome main female character, and she's a badass girl. And she's not no Mary Sue or anything. No, not like any Mary Sue you know. She was a victim to her stalker, and she survives, and she battles her killer, her attacker, and she survives it. And not only that Neve Campbell is the star. There's also Courtney Cox, who plays Gail Weathers, the reporter, and there's David Arquette, named Dewey Riley, who is the cop in this one, and there's Jamie Kennedy, who is a comic relief in this film, and Sidney Prescott's boyfriend was named Billy Loomis, who sometimes throughout the movie you'll notice that he just appears out of nowhere, almost like it's really creepy. He just pops out of nowhere, and chances are you end up finding him a bit suspicious in a lot of cases. Throughout the movie, you'll find him suspicious, which is why he keeps popping out of nowhere. And there's also Rose McGowan, who plays Dewey's sister, Tatum. Which Rose McGowan, you may have recognized her from the show Charmed, which she's a really great actress. And there's also and Tatum's boyfriend was named Stu Macher, which he's played by none other than Matthew Lillard. And Matthew Lillard, he in real life was quite a funny guy. But the first movie I've seen him in was Scooby-Doo, when he played Shaggy. But this is one of the earlier movies before Scooby-Doo. And Matthew Lillard, he was really good. He had some funny parts in the film, but he pulled off one hell of a character. So, I'll explain why later. So then, Sydney ends up finding out that her mom is dead, is killed, and then we found out then she ends up getting a call by the killer, and the killer was named Ghostface, which is this guy right here, of course, on the name of the cover. Yes, that's the official name of the killer, but they just never really mentioned the name much. But not credited in the title, in the credits. And the killer, every time, he mostly talks on the phone, because he's identified as this mysterious voice in the phone that everyone keeps getting throughout the film. Like example, "Hello, Sydney," and that's all what there was. And then the worst thing about it is that if you hang up on the killer, he'll come after you. So then Sydney eventually had a funny moment, saying like, "What am I doing? Huh? And sticks her finger up her nose, saying, "What am I doing? Hello?" And said, "Nice try, Randy." And because she thought it was Randy playing a joke, which was Jamie Kennedy's character. And then after she hung up, then she gets attacked by the killer, and she survives the attack. And then all of a sudden, Billy shows up after that. And as the cops showed up, with Dewey showing up with the costume, Billy ends up getting caught by the cops, and he was accused of being the killer. Then we found out that. And Billy claims that he didn't kill anybody, which we found out. And it turns out there was another killer out there. And then after the attack, the principal then eventually decided to suspend all the school in Woodsboro, and they decided to make a curfew. Supposedly, the scapegoat was that the criminal was called Cotton Weary, which he was the scapegoat of the film. And he had a small role as he was seen on TV. But he has a big part in Scream 2, which you'll see him again, and that was Liev Schreiber. And so then after that, Stu ends up bringing everyone to his house for a house party, and they were watching the movie Halloween. So then Ghostface eventually follows them to Stu Macher's house. The killer ends up killing Tatum Riley, and then Billy shows up, and the two of them, and then he and Sydney eventually had sex, and of course they reference the rules about surviving a horror movie, that you never have sex, never say do drugs or alcohol, and never say I'll be right back. And after Sydney and Billy had sex, the Ghostface shows up, and it turns out, and then they made the second chase scene, and then turns out after the chase, the killer was later revealed to be Billy and Stu. So yes, there's your story behind it. Billy actually had Stu as his accomplice to make it look like Billy is not the killer. So yeah, they've been working together. And where they made a murder spree out of it. And so that's when then they tried to, and that's when they found Sidney's dad, and they had him tied up, try to frame him. But Sidney then eventually was about to get killed, but she and Gail ends up taking on the killer, taking on both Billy and Stu. Jamie Kennedy, which is Randy, ends up surviving as well. Dewey was stabbed in the back, and you thought that he was killed, but he survives. And so then, of course, they reference the famous horror movies like Friday the 13th. Randy says the killer can come back for one last scare. Billy comes back and tries to attack, and then Sidney ends up shooting him in the head. And Stu was killed by having a TV slammed in his face. And so the killers are both dead. And the case was solved in that one. And that's the end of that one, where Sidney Prescott survives. And would I recommend this movie? If you're new to horror movies, I truly recommend this movie. Scream is one of the best movies I have grown up watching. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I love this so much. I can go back to watching the first Scream like again and again. Like when I was a kid, every time Scream was on TV, I turn it on. And I watch it over and over. And so I would say, and as I said, Scream is like Jaws of the slasher genre. Jaws made people afraid to go to the beach, and Scream made people get caller ID. So, with that said, it's time to go, and I would truly recommend this movie. Next up we'll be doing Scream 2, right in the middle there, and after that we'll be doing Scream 3 and 4 and 5, and I will be reviewing the upcoming Scream 6, and I'm thinking of splitting it in 2 videos, one spoiler free and one is spoiler review. And so, I mean, this one's definitely a must-watch in terms of horror movies, especially if you want to have a horror movie marathon, especially during Halloween. And so, I definitely recommend grabbing Scream if you want to get things started with a horror genre. And with that said, and I hope you have a great night, and stay awesome, my viewers, and I'll catch you later. Bye.